It is 5:30 on November 12th. I'll call the regular council meeting to order. The first thing on our agenda is always our agenda. Could I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, please? Councillor Wilson?
Also move.
All right. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. And on to our minutes, the previous meeting. I have an opportunity to look over the minutes. Need a motion to approve those. Councillor Flowers.
I'll move to accept the minutes of the special and regular meeting on October 28th.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of the minutes? That carries unanimously. We're off to a great start. No dedications. Delegations tonight. We do have a few business items. 5A is Bylaw 25, 2024, Southbow Landing Stage 1 Land Use Amendments. Mr. Krasinski.
Hello. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. This evening I'm here to present two files for consideration of first reading and setting a public hearing date. The first is Bylaw 25/2024, which is a land use amendment for Southbow Landing. And the second is for amendments to the Southbow Landing Neighbourhood Plan. These are two separate applications and are represented by individual reports. However, they are being presented together this evening as they are interrelated. As mentioned, these applications are for neighborhood plan amendments and land use amendments, which will allow an update to our land use bylaw. These applications will go on to inform decisions at the subdivision, development permit, and building permit phases. These applications are within Southbow Landing, which is a large neighborhood located to the east of Highway 22, south of existing communities of Riversong, the Willows, and adjacent to Southridge, and future development of the summit of Riversong. Bylaw 25/2024 is proposing a mixture of low to high density housing, commercial and industrial employment areas, as well as an increase in overall parks and recreation space by approximately 4.1 acres. This is a result of reallocating approximately 3.2 acres of commercial and industrial employment lands to a public utility lot that will serve as a utility corridor for ATCO gas and AltaLink power, transmission infrastructure, as well as open space. The proposed amendments also include the removal of a Class 3 wetland near the southwest portion of the plan boundary, which I will speak to later in the presentation. As the land uses that are being proposed are no longer in alignment with the Southbow Landing Neighborhood Plan, there are also amendments being proposed to that plan. Maps and text will be updated to reflect the changes discussed in the following slides. This slide highlights the changes in land uses between the current plan and proposed changes contained in the application. Some of the more significant changes are as follows: adjustments to the size and design of employment lands, resulting in a reduction in areas of employment lands across the plan. This reduction is largely being reallocated to parks and recreation uses. Inclusion of a public utility lot where the ATCO gas and AltaLink power transmission lines are located, spanning from James Walker Trail to the south of the boundary plan area. This area will now include community amenities such as pathways, landscaping, and the addition of an off-leash dog park. This is contributing to the increase in parks and recreation lands within the plan area. The removal of a Class 3 wetland located to the southwest in the southwest corner of the plan area. And the final change worth noting is an increase in the size of the Central Southern Community Park that has been expanded to add increased amenity and connections to the internal park system within the community. At the request of Council, we have included an image that outlines the impact of any potential future widening of Highway 22. This information was provided on the applicant's submission and shows an overlay of the existing Highway 22 road right-of-way over the subject lands. No additional information was readily available prior to today's meeting. The value proposition on this slide presents a summary of how the proposed changes to the Southbow Landing Neighborhood Plan compare to the current plan. The proposed changes increase connectivity by connection of greenway and park spaces throughout the community. The proposed school sites can be accessed through the connection points from anywhere in the community. Reliance on vehicular transport is reduced as pathway connections connect the community to the west commercial and industrial areas. The proposed plan enhances compatibility between land uses by adding a landscaping buffer between residences, as well as a large buffer between proposed low-density residential and west employment lands. The plan decreases environmental protection by elimination of an existing wetland. However, the plan does include an increase in overall green space among the community. The new plan maintains the same level of housing diversity as the proposed uses remain consistent with the previous plan. Community amenities and open space are enhanced through the plan by including an off-leash dog park, as well as increased connectivity and green space amenities throughout the community. The cost of municipality remains approximately the same. And the new neighborhood plan would also have a positive impact on broadening the municipal tax base, as it provides an opportunity for higher intensity commercial uses that have a higher value land use. Next steps for this application include setting a public hearing, consideration of second and third reading, and if approved, review and approval of subdivision, development permit, and building permit applications. Administration is recommending the council give first reading to Bylaw 25/2024 and establish a public hearing for Monday, December 2nd at 5:30 p.m. and establish a non-statutory public hearing for Southbow Landing Neighborhood Plan amendments for Monday, December 2nd at 5:30 p.m. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you for your presentation. Council looking for a motion for first reading and public hearing. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Happy to move first reading, and the date is in front of me there.
December 2nd.
Thank you. First reading, December 2nd, 2024 at 5:30 p.m., as well as the non-statutory public hearing for December 2nd, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. I just had a question about what we just went through there. I anticipate it being somewhat of a talking point at the public hearing. When we're looking at the one wetland that's proposed to be removed, could we go back to the highway slide very quickly? Of the proposed twinning of Highway 22. Yes, right there. Could you just point out which of the wetlands? I believe it's the bottom right seasonal pond / wetland that's proposed.
Through the chair, Councillor Wilson, that is correct. It is the southernmost wetland that is proposed for removal.
Okay, and if I'm looking at the image correctly, at some point, if we were successful in our Highway 22 expansion, the other two ponds may also be in danger of being removed as well. It's just not part of this particular file right now.
Through the chair, Councillor Wilson, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarity, obviously there's no debate or discussion at this point. I'm happy to move the recommended action.
Okay, any other questions? No? All in favor of first reading and public hearing for December 2nd? That carries. Need a second motion for the neighborhood plan. Basically the same. Councillor Wilson, carrying on.
I'll just continue on to move the neighborhood plan as well.
Yeah.
That's also for Monday, December 2nd, 5:30 p.m.
Correct. No questions? Call the question. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you, Mr. Krasinski. Moving on to, that was 5A and B. Now we're on 5C, adoption of the growth study. That is 5C. You're sticking around to present this one as well, Mr. Krasinski. Take it away.
Perfect. Good evening again, Mayor Janong and members of council. The purpose of this agenda item is to request that council formally adopt the Cochrane growth study, which includes any subsequent information and findings to inform long-range planning for municipal services and infrastructure to accommodate growth. As you recall, Urban Systems, our lead consultant for this project, provided a detailed overview and presentations on the Cochrane growth study to council on December 4th, 2023, and more recently on October 21st, 2024. In those presentations, we learned about Cochrane's land demands compared to our remaining land supply. Based on recent population growth assumptions, this became an indicator of when we will run out of developable land. The study also looked at land suitability, which informs us on which lands have statutory plans or policies in place and which lands are in need of support of servicing and infrastructure in order to enable development. The Pathways for Growth section shows different growth models based on different levels of urban intensification for both residential and employment lands. By formally adopting the growth study, administration and council can use its findings to help with planning future growth. It can be used to test different growth patterns, provide administration with foundational information to support long-range planning and infrastructure decisions, and give council a decision-making tool for future development considerations. The growth study informed Envision Cochrane 2050 and is intended to inform future planning documents, such as planning for municipal infrastructure and services as the community grows. Administration is recommending that council adopt the Cochrane Growth Study as presented and apply its findings to inform long-range planning for municipal services to accommodate growth. And that completes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. I'm joined by Chris Nelson from Urban Systems as well, if you have any questions for our consultant as well.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we've seen this at a committee of the whole meeting a couple of times. Need a motion, and if there's any questions. Councillor Flowers, thank you.
I don't have any questions. It was pretty straightforward and interesting information, but I will make the recommended action that council adopts the Cochrane Growth Study document as presented.
Okay, any commentary? No, I'll just have one comment, and I think I made this at the committee of the whole as well, but I just, as I've been talking about this study now, as I've been addressing different groups, it's really good to have some data to extrapolate out and see what types of changes we might be facing in the future. So I really appreciate the depth and the I guess just the way that the study has been laid out, addressing all of the things that you've outlined in your presentation. But the one I wanted to, that people keep asking me is, this is not a target. This is not what we're aiming to grow to. This is simply what's so, in a way. I mean, I don't know if there's a better way you could say that in Mr. Krasinski about why we're doing this study and what the targets, or not the targets, but the population estimates are in those four, especially on that one graph that shows the low, medium, and high growth rates.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Mayor Janong. That is correct. This is a projection based on historical trends and where we believe the municipality is going in terms of its growth. This is not a target to hit. Rather, it provides a key data point as we plan for growth in the future to determine what type of level and population is likely given our current situation, so that we can inform those future studies for infrastructure planning and service levels in the future.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I knew you could say it better than I could. Thank you for that. Not seeing any other questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carries. That takes you off the podium. 5D, Bylaw 26, 2024, the election bylaw. Ms. Robertson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This evening I have before you Bylaw 26, 2024, the election bylaw. Upon approval of Bylaw 26, the current election bylaw will be rescinded. Bylaw 26 represents not only required revisions triggered by the passage of Bill 20 and changes to the Local Authorities Election Act, but also incorporates best practices across Alberta municipalities. Administration presented the bylaw at the November 12th Committee of the Whole meeting for council to consider and provide any feedback. At that time, administration did not receive any requested revisions, so the bylaw is before you tonight, as was presented last week, for consideration of first reading. It is administration's intent to bring Bylaw 26 back for second and third reading at the November 25th council meeting, should it pass first reading this evening, to ensure adoption ahead of December 31st. And I am happy to answer any clarifying questions you may have.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Robertson. Election bylaw, first reading. Need a motion. Councillor Wilson.
I've got nothing to add other than a motion. We spoke about it at length at the committee of the whole process. I was quite pleased with what was before us then, and I'm happy to move option 1 recommended that council give first reading to election bylaw 26, 2024.
Okay, seeing no questions. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And 5E,
Yes, good
Deputy
evening
Mayor
again.
and committee appointments.
At the October 28th organizational meeting, there were 2 specific appointments that administration provided direction on that were in fact in contradiction to legislation and other resolutions of council. Upon recognition of these errors, administration is bringing back the amendments required to ensure alignment with the legislation and council direction. To that end, administration is requesting that Councillor Flowers be appointed as the Deputy Mayor on the schedule from June 26th to October 20th, 2025, and that the previous appointment of Councillor Fedeko be revoked. In addition, that the appointment of Councillor Flowers as alternate to the Library Board also be rescinded. We did engage with the Public Library Services branch about this error, and although they confirmed that they did not require the appointment to be rescinded, administration wanted to ensure alignment with the Libraries Act and request council remove the alternate. Moving forward, that section of council's committee and external partnership listing will be crafted so that the oversight does not happen in the future, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about those revisions.
All right, thank you. Councillor Fedeko?
Thank you, through Mr. Derricotte. So I went back and I looked at the November 6, 2023 organizational meeting, and I did allow Councillor Flowers to go ahead, then Councillor McFadden went ahead, but I don't believe I was ever awarded an opportunity to come back into rotation. That was never offered to me. It just kind of continued to carry on with the regular amount of council. So do we have minutes that actually suggest that that was approved by council to allow a subsequent role of council to go ahead of me?
There was additional minutes after the last October organizational meeting. We would have to pull those and bring those back. I don't have those with me at the moment.
Yeah, because what I watched in the November 6th is that I did allow Councillor Flowers to go ahead, because I watched the meeting myself. And actually, I do have a picture of the minutes that clearly state the rotational, which was like me, Councillor Flowers, Councillor McFadden. I stepped aside. They went ahead of me, which then would have eliminated me, I agree, because it was sanctioned, which would eliminate me from the June 25th portion. Everybody else carried on, but now it seems that I'm being eliminated from the June appointment of 2025, and also the sanctions that I already received to remove me from committees ended as of December 31st, 2024. And again, those sanctions were imposed by 2 members of council not being here and 1 voting against it, and an unsubstantiated investigative report. So, not that I'm on a hill to die on to be deputy mayor, but I've never been deputy mayor in this complete term. I passed off on once, I passed off twice, and now I'm being removed for the next time. So just my comments anyways.
Through the mayor to Councillor Fedeko, what I can speak to, Councillor Fedeko, is the resolution that was passed to remove you from rotation was actually done in May of this year. And so that would have removed your very next position in Deputy Mayor Chair, which was this one here in October. The other resolution, there was multiple resolutions at that meeting, and the one specific to committees was going to end at the end of December, but the one specific to rotation was just speaking to the next piece of the rotation you were in, which would have been this June to October period.
I was never offered to come back into rotation. See what I'm saying? Like, everybody just proceeded to just go with it. So, anyways, not a hill to die on, just pointing it out.
So are you asking for anything, Councillor Fedeko, or?
No, not necessarily. It's not like I'm going to win a vote around the table anyway, so it's fine. I just want the public to know that I've never been deputy mayor in this complete term. So the fact is nobody ever came back to actually, I don't think there was a vote after Councillor McFadden went in. It just kind of carried on in full rotation. So if somebody can show me the minutes where that was approved, that it would just continue on to the next councillors, that would be great.
Ms. Robertson, don't we have, like when council appoints deputy mayors, it's for the year at organizational meeting, and it's that rotation at that organizational meeting is when we appoint that lineup of people, correct?
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Mayor. And my recollection of the minutes, and I will find them for you, is that there was a request to move Councillor Federico to the end of the full rotation, which would have been the end of this string of appointments ending at the end of the term. But it is at council's discretion. It would just be in contradiction of the resolution from the May special meeting.
Okay. All right. Councillor McFadden?
Going back to the library one, I have to admit, I don't fully understand that, because we've appointed a council rep to the library board since forever. And so what's the clarity here that I'm missing?
Through the mayor to Councillor McFadden, when we were doing our appointments this year at the organizational meeting, we were looking for alternates to all of the committees to ensure that representation would be present for all of the committees. So if a council member had a conflict, they would be able to contact the other council member who is the alternate and bring that forward. What the library, Public Library Services branch has confirmed for us is that although you were appointed via this process, you are there representing yourself in that. So it's not specific to council representation, and therefore an alternate actually can't step in and continue to represent the other person. So if you were appointed to the library board, Councillor Flowers can't actually step in and represent your position.
Okay, so then what we're doing here is taking away the alternate?
Taking away the alternate, the standard appointed person remains appointed. It's just the alternate position that we are looking to rescind this evening.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was thinking about the organizational meeting afterward, because I had noted Councillor Federico's appointment, but I felt we kind of missed a couple steps. We've also, as has been identified, Councillor Federico is to resume her opportunity to serve on committees as of January 1st.
Correct.
And so I think we just missed an opportunity to kind of plan that out, because I really do feel our community is best served if all of council is serving on those committees. And so I'm more than glad to have that committee conversation again. I certainly have some committees I'm prepared to, I love the work and contributing, but I'm also willing to kind of, share the workload. So if we could add that to the conversation of redistributing or coming up with a plan to build Councillor Federico back into the committee structure for January. I don't know if we can do that this meeting, or can we just defer this conversation, or what's the best way to have that conversation?
Through the mayor to Councillor McFadden, it would probably be best to come back to another meeting where we have the full committee listing up on the screen and can have that conversation. That is not part of our package this evening, and so if council is wishing to revisit that, upon council direction, we can bring that to a future meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how we give that direction, but I'd certainly like to have that conversation about building that in. And then another, I don't believe it's part of, it's more of a custom than anything that we've resolved to do, is that we've traditionally shuffled the seating arrangements around the bench, and we didn't have that conversation at the last meeting. Anyway, I'd just like us to go back to perhaps shuffling the seats randomly again, because I think there's the best draft right here, and I'd like to be shuffled out of it. I'm joking, that's the facetious reason for it. I do believe there's a valid reason to shuffle the seats, so I don't know how we can have that conversation or where the rest of my colleagues are at on that one. But I know that's outside of the
That is not an
legislative process.
administrative
That's not you, that's us.
position.
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in. To be honest, I'm a little bit frustrated with the conversation. I had sent out an email to council previous to our organizational meeting asking for what committees everybody wanted to serve on. Heard back from less than half of council. Then we showed up for the meeting to have the discussion. We had it live and shuffled through and did our duty and assigned everybody. Again, it's that will of council to agree or talk about this at any future meeting, but I would ask my colleagues to come prepared for that meeting to have the conversation. That's what our organizational meeting is. That's what we do. But again, if we need to have another one, we can. Around the shuffling of the seats, that's left up to the position of the mayor. I decided before that meeting that, having not heard from anyone, to leave it alone, just to not disturb the flow of anything, or for it to be perceived as some sort of political move at some point. So I thought it was just the best to leave it alone. So that's the decision I made at that point, to not shuffle up the seating. But I guess if people want to move, let's talk about it.
Okay, so I think I did let you know my committee interest and came prepared for that meeting. And we haven't talked about the shuffling because it's just been the norm this term, so I didn't think we would need to define that. So, yeah, for that piece, I think if we can come back with a conversation of how to build Councillor Federico into the committee schedule. I don't know if we need a clear direction at the table at this point, but I think that's the fair thing to do. And the shuffle, I think, is always healthy. Worst case scenario, I mean, Councillor Federico, if you want to shuffle seats, I'll trade you. It's got a draft. And then the third piece, on the rescinding of the motion, I was opposed to the sanction that led to that, so I'm opposed to rescinding that sanction as well. So those are my thoughts on kind of the review of our organizational meeting.
Councillor Flowers?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of rehashing everything, but I did want to mention about the library board that it's always been like that. When I was on it a few years ago, they let us know that they weren't supposed to have an alternate, and it's nothing new. It's something that's been on the books. We keep forgetting from time to time.
Councillor Federico?
Thank you, through Mr. Duricott again. Just to chime in, I was never asked whether or not I would be willing to come back on any committees in the new year. It actually wasn't even brought up to me. So the email went out. I already knew that it was sanctioned. I couldn't put my hand up to be on a committee because of the fact that it was sanctioned until the end of the year. So perhaps, you know, if we're looking, maybe it's for wording from the other side to state that I could have had an opportunity to put my hand up to sit on a committee if I wanted to in the new year, but that was never offered to me. And neither was a seating arrangement. I don't believe I ever saw that in email that passed by, whether or not we as council wanted to switch seats. So again, not a hill for me to die on. I would like a turn to be deputy mayor. I think it's only fair. I have been removed, like I haven't been even deputy mayor in this complete term. We can all sit around the table and hash that out, but I do believe that the decision to remove me already was questionable at best, but it is what it is. But I was never asked to come back and choose to help out for a workload. So I don't know, that can come back and I will decide from that point, but it was never even an option for mine.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. Do we have a motion on the floor right now? I'm
I was
lost track.
just about to ask that. I don't think we do yet.
I might provide a motion for option 2, just listening to what I've heard around the table. I would be, obviously the library, rescinding the alternate on the library board makes sense because we can't assign one. The first point though about Councillor Federico not being able to serve as the deputy mayor or not serving from June 26th to October 20th, I would be, if she's interested in doing that, I would be amenable to leaving it as it is. And as well, as far as committee appointments go, I'd be fine. I didn't hear if Councillor Federico would like to be involved in committees next year, but I'd be fine with that. I've got 3 myself and I could do without one if she wanted to take one, so that would be just fine. And then seating order, I have absolutely no opinion on. I'll just, whatever the group decides there.
Maybe for clarity, what I'm hearing you say is that the resolution of council, you're interpreting, or administration is interpreting that as Councillor Federico not being able to take that.
Correct.
So maybe we could postpone that piece until we have that clarity, and we can bring that back to a future meeting with potential for January appointments. We can all send out the email again, asking everybody for their preferred committee appointments, and if there's a shuffle to happen in January, then we can have that discussion. Does that sound like a reasonable, and we can have a look at that resolution and bring some clarity back on that as a middle ground? Councillor Federico?
Yes, and if the minutes can be provided to state that it was to move to the end, please.
So maybe a timeline of what happened when, including I think we went through, if I'm recalling, the organizational meeting. Councillor Federico, you asked not to be in that rotation. Then it happened at a second organizational meeting. I think you asked again at that meeting to not take a rotation. Okay, so that's what we'll find out. Is that clear? No. So what we'd be voting on today is the rescinding of the library board only, and to ask administration to come back with clarity on the resolution and the timeline on the organizational meetings, and then who's up next in a deputy mayor slot for June 26th to October 20th.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is just with regards to the recommended action regarding the library board.
Yes, I don't think you need a motion to come back.
If I could,
Or do you?
actually, it would be administration's preference so that it's clear what we are being requested to do, that council is clear in your resolution.
Okay.
My suggestion would be that you do it as two separate, so you pass the resolution or put the resolution on the floor to rescind the library board appointment, and then give whatever direction to administration that you feel is appropriate, and include a timeline by which you would like that brought back.
That sounds reasonable. So why don't we just vote on the rescinding the Councillor Flowers as the alternate for the library board first? Councillor Wilson, you're good with that motion? I think you made one already, so just that. We'll vote on that and then craft another motion on what it is that we want to be clear about.
Okay, would you like me to read that?
No, I think we got it.
Okay. Okay.
All those in favor of rescinding the alternate from the library? Those opposed? Okay, that passes. I think what I heard, the second motion should be the council direct administration to come back to probably the next council meeting, if we could, regular council meeting. We can't make decisions at the committee of the whole. So that would, whatever that date is, December, is it?
November 25th.
November 25th, with the timeline of, or the outline of the resolution of the sanction. I think that's the one piece in question. The timeline of the organizational meetings and minutes from, let's just say the term, all the organizational meetings we've had this term. And then the committee appointments, including going forward for January 1st, 2025 to October. Does that capture the conversation?
If I could make a request administratively, the next regular council meeting, that report would be due already. So it would be my suggestion if council would be so kind as to endeavor to allow us to bring that forward before the end of the year. So by the December meeting, given that we are also in the middle of budget deliberations starting tomorrow.
Yes, I don't think there's any urgency other than to set up the new year, right? We're talking about a deputy mayor in June and committees potentially shifting in January. Okay? Councillor Wilson?
Just one question of clarity on that proposed motion, and that's we're determining the availability or eligibility of Councillor Federico to be deputy mayor from June 26, 2025 to the end of term. Is that what we're asking administration? Is it the eligibility of her to do so?
Essentially, what that resolution, sorry, is low?
Through the Chair to Council Wilson, I think what you will be determining is whether or not you want to revisit the resolution if it was clear that Councillor Federico was not to be appointed as a deputy mayor.
Thank you.
And so you would be revisiting that resolution as well as making a determination going forward.
Excellent. Okay, that's what I was looking for. I will make that motion.
Okay, so moved. Everyone's clear on the action?
Is anybody clear on the action? Clear enough. Or clear enough? Sorry, can I clarify my question? So the answer is that we're going to go to this motion.
Can you turn your mic on?
Oh, apologies. Is that by the end of the year, we'll get a presentation back from administration, which will allow us to revisit kind of the back information on Councillor Fideco's deputy mayor appointment, to then also make council to make a decision on whether to rescind the current appointment or not. And thirdly, to allow council to revisit council or committee appointments moving into the new year. Those would be the three things we would accomplish. Okay, if that's,
Rescind what? I didn't understand your,
so we're going to make a decision about whether, how to approach, or to determine whether we're going to rescind Councillor Fideco's current appointment as a deputy mayor.
oh, yes.
So those would be the 3 points that we're gonna get back with. Okay,
Yes.
if that's the win, however we line it up, I'm satisfied.
Okay. Ms. Lowe? No? The most time spent in our business meeting tonight. All right, everyone's clear. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. No notices of motion.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just walked in like 5
We're
minutes
on-
before you did.
We're on mayor's report.
I told you to be here for the mayor's report.
Well, I saved it just for you, Councillor Nagel. Just a few things. I think I highlighted to council the meetings we had with Minister Foundation and Bethany Care, meetings with seniors housing. Minister Nixon was unable to make the meeting. I think we found out about 30 minutes before. Met with Chief of Staff and Assistant Deputy Minister. Good conversation. We have some work to do. Well, we don't. Bethany Care Center and Rockview Foundation have some work to do to come up with a funding proposal to the minister to ask for some planning dollars. So we're inching forward on that file. Again, it's not Town of Cochrane builds on either one of those organizations, but we're trying to facilitate conversations and keep the ball rolling. Smart Start grad, just wanted to give kudos to staff on the Smart Start program. Economic development, I think, really carried that, and through Mr. Corman and now Ms. Holler? I'm not gonna get it.
Nicole Henney.
Hannay, okay. Ms. Hannay, in her new role, that program was, I went to the beginning of it 8 months ago, and then the graduation here last week. And to hear the 7 startups that went through the program, they've just sung praises to the whole town staff for all the work they did in helping facilitate the growth of their business and get them off the ground. An HR business, an immigrant that is helping immigrants come to this country is another example of these startups that are happening right here in Cochrane. It was a really good program, and now they move on to be mentors and help the next set of students that will come in with their business ideas, and there's another role. I think this is happening every year, so just kudos to everybody involved with that. I met with Mayor Brown and Reeve Kissel about seniors housing and talking about getting our communities together on the same page about finding a funding formula for that, for Rockview Foundation. Sweat for a Vet for Wayfinders at the rec center, well attended and very, very good program at Wayfinders. SETI, we had our meeting, really robust conversation with First Nations about economic development and really setting ourselves up for future successes. So whomever's sitting around this table next term has a bit of a handbook to how to engage and how to talk and how to meet, which was, I have to admit, awkward when we first started out. It's just the meetings that we've been having over the last 3 years has really helped facilitate a better relationship there. I'd like to continue to have that. I'd want to, I know it's gone all over social media and in the media, but the Remembrance Crosswalk, it's not often we get to pat ourselves on the back or celebrate something that I haven't seen one negative comment or heard one negative piece of feedback about that crosswalk. And really hats off administration. Thank you for A, doing it, B, making it simple, and yes, we had to have the weather cooperate, but sometimes those small things can be the most meaningful, and the Remembrance Day ceremony yesterday was record-setting, packed, 1,000-ish or more people on Fifth Avenue and First Street, and the buzz was the crosswalk. I've received media requests from across the country, other communities across Canada wanting to do what Cochrane has done. And really, we were emulating something that Hamilton had done first, but someone's good idea can be ours too. I just really want to say thank you, and that it's the number one question I get from people is, are we going to do it next year? And it's an easy answer. It's a permanent installation. It was a thermoplast paint that has a 5 to 10 year lifespan. I know more about crosswalks than ever. But the fact that administration chose to do that just shows that this is a lasting kind of legacy that we can have in our community. And the veterans were, I've had stories of people in tears standing at that crosswalk. It's like I say, a small but very meaningful thing that's had a huge positive impact in our community and in our country. So thank you. Spoke at Rotary today, and the topic I chose for the Rotary Club was growth and our community resilience. So just talked about where we've come from, where we are and where we're going. And I talked about budget and some of the capital requests in there. Had a few questions, and looking forward to budget coming up tomorrow. With that, that's the mayor's report. Councillor McFadden, you have a council report?
Yeah, it's, I was just looking back on this fall and it's been busy, but I've like really enjoyed it and found it quite invigorating to kind of be back kind of in the flow and working with folks and meeting with folks. And so yeah, it's been a good fall, busy, but good. So kind of the highlights of the last 2 weeks, I think. I took up my first meeting as a council appointee to the FCSS committee. So that's a great group. They had part of their meeting was all around kind of coming up with the different grant recommendations that they're going to recommend to the budget process. So that was really fascinating, and they had a really great approach to how their committee of volunteers were selecting their grant recommendations. Also wanted to highlight, I believe November is their financial literacy month, and they've got some really great programs being offered there. And then, of course, they've got the grad glow up, so they're trying to gather a donation, donate your formal wear for your last grad to kind of, pay it forward, I think, a little bit. So some really great programs that the FCSS is doing and the FCSS committee is doing. So a shout out to that group. And met with a couple reps from the Cochrane Library who were advocating for their stand within the budget. So that was a really great meeting. And yeah, as you identified, we've got 2 budget meetings tomorrow and Thursday, and then some more next week. So yeah, November is a crunch time for council, but yeah, it's been a really fun month.
Thank you. Not seeing any other reports. We do have a closed session. We need a motion to go into closed session. Councillor Flowers, thank you. All those in favor? That carries. Take maybe a 5-minute